Hi, I'm Grace Judson, self-proclaimed proud leadership geek. And so tell me, have you ever had to deal with an employee who just did the absolute minimum to get by? The work they complete might be good or even great, but oh my, they're slow, or they always come into the office late, or leave early, or take a long lunch break, or they just can't seem to get things done on deadline. Well, hang in there and watch this video because I'm going to give you some tips on how to solve this problem. And first, you might already know that this is the place for the most relevant and useful leadership advice for new managers and new supervisors. So if you haven't already, you should subscribe and hit the little notifications bell so you'll know when I publish a new video every Wednesday. Okay, so that slow, or I don't necessarily want to say lazy employee, but let's call it extremely unmotivated and disengaged. It's more than just missing a deadline now and then. I mean, we all miss deadlines every so often, usually for very good reasons. But then there are those employees who can't ever seem to hit a deadline. They always have an excuse for why they come in late or an important appointment they need to leave early for. And it's frustrating, especially if their work, when they produce it, is reasonably good or maybe even excellent, right? Well, I'm going to give you some ways to address this problem and get things back on track. I was in management and leadership for over 16 years before I started my leadership training and coaching business in 2005. And I have helped a lot of clients understand how to manage, supervise, and lead with confidence and success, even when an employee on their team may not be performing to the highest standard, the standards they would like. And going back to the type of employee we're talking about, you know the scenario, right? I mean, some people just seem to have a reason, or I guess we should really say more accurately, an excuse for everything. Other people manage to show up on time and meet deadlines. So what's the difference here? Well, here's a secret. It is probably not time management. I'm not a big fan of most so-called time management practices for a lot of reasons. Maybe I'll go into that in another video. In any event, with any performance problem, the first step is always to figure out what is actually going on. And that requires a conversation. If you've seen some of the other videos in this difficult employees or challenging employees series, yes, once again, I am asking you to sit down with the employee in private, behind closed doors, and ask some curious questions. Here's the thing, most people want to do a good job, but for some reason they're not. So why is this person chronically late? It could be a situation at home where they simply can't get out of the house on time because of factors that are legitimately out of their control. Maybe they've got a kid with a strange school schedule, maybe they've got, some other thing going on. And in that case, if that's what's happening, is there any way to allow them to come in a little later and then make up that time either at lunch or in the afternoon? Now, while we're talking about reasons and excuses, I have to ask this because I really do want to know. What is the strangest excuse you've ever heard from an employee? Whether it was about being late or anything else. No names, don't out them in public, but I'd love to know what the weird, kind of the dog ate my homework kind of thing, right? So, okay, there are plenty of other reasons why people don't show up on time or leave early or might maybe take long lunch breaks. For instance, there really could be a medical issue, and this is especially possible if their tardiness is a recent development. It hasn't always been their pattern to be late or to miss deadlines and so on. And they may not want to talk about this, understandably enough, and you'll need to assure them of confidentiality. Because if they're having to go to medical appointments, whether it's for themselves or for a family member, special consideration might very well be possible. It depends on their role on your team. It depends on how long, potentially at least how long they've been an employee. We tend to give more leeway to people who've been with the company for longer, and that's perfectly reasonable. It also, of course, depends on the policies in your company, and you'll have to check with your human resources department to know exactly what the options are. But when somebody is dealing with a medical issue of some sort, whether themselves, a family member, a mental health issue, it is a good thing to see what kind of accommodations, let's say, can be made, right? Okay, and then there's the question of missing deadlines. Now, I mentioned in the video on managing the drama queen and the drama king that when employees are in an uproar about their workload, it could simply be that they don't know how to do something or they don't have the resources they need. And this could be very true for an employee who consistently misses deadlines. Are they doing things in the right order, in the most efficient way? Do they need some coaching to help streamline their workflow? Are they running into roadblocks where they need information or other resources that for some reason aren't available or that they're not getting in a timely fashion? Here's the thing. Taking the time to find out what's going on with an employee who's not performing is never wasted time. And in doing that, you might find out that, yes, they do need additional help or resources that they're not getting, but you also might find out that, like I said in the very beginning of this video, to put it in corporate speak, they're just not engaged. They just don't have the desire, the drive, the motivation to not even go the extra mile, but to even go the required miles with the right amount of effort. And what that really means is that they're just not a fit. They're not a fit for this job. They maybe not a fit for this company. So if after you do the research, you ask curious questions, you find out what's going on, you decide that this is the reality of the situation, you really have no choice. You need to put this employee on an improvement plan. And your HR department undoubtedly has a process for this. And I'm going to include a quick checklist as a handout for this video. The link to download it is down there in the description of the video. Because for a performance plan to succeed, it needs to be very specific. You need to follow certain steps with no question as to what is supposed to happen and by when. Because otherwise, you're going to end up back where you started, with an employee who's not making the grade, but who has an excuse for every missed deadline, late arrival, or early departure. So there you have it. And if you want more on this type of employee, then also there's a link below in the description for this video where you can get my ebook on the 5 most challenging employee types and how to manage them. Don't forget to download that performance plan checklist as well. Do be sure that you check with your HR department so that you don't miss any steps that they require and that they are in agreement with what I have suggested. And finally, if you like this video, please let me know. Like it, subscribe if you haven't already, share the video with your colleagues, and give me a comment to know of any insights or aha moments you had or any questions you have, because I am happy to come back and read your question and give you an answer. Take care.